Your voice, your opinion, your community. Fact TV, free speech, protected.
Local news, politics, business, sports, arts, music. Mike and Marty on the beat. Mike and Marty. Mike and Marty on
Good morning, Dulles Falls and Keene, and welcome to the feed. It's Mike and Marty. We're here with Jen Young Heidbrink. I always say that wrong. Heidbrink and Sam Howard. And today we're going to be talking about Greater Falls Family Partnership and the library and Little League maybe and some other stuff. All sorts of things to talk about today. But first, Marty with local events.
So at the Bells Falls Opera House, and I don't have a slide for this one because it just came up, is Mickey 17. And just so you know, that's only going to be on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday because we are getting into the time frame for Matilda coming, Matilda the musical coming. And the classic movies are on hold right now. And those are on hold until April 16th, so I don't have any classic movies to give you. The second of the Ray Masuko concert series, Dawn of the Buffalo, is happening on Friday, March 28th at 7:30 p.m. And I do know that Donna has her own following. There's a lot of people that go to Dawn of the Buffalo. So if you're looking to get tickets, you probably should try to get them soon because I think it'll be another. The one this past weekend was pretty close to sold out.
And people were cheering in the back of the one this last week when they heard Dawn of the Buffalo.
Oh, good.
Coming.
Okay, so I think that tickets will probably go fast. So those are available at the Opera
You can always
House.
check it out on YouTube if you're curious. Like, what is this? There's a lot. There's a lot of content around Dawn of the Buffalo.
Okay,
and
nice.
They have a big following.
Oh, good. So that's what I do sometimes is check the musicians out. And then coming the first weekend in April, first and second weekends in April is Matilda the Musical. So that'll be Friday, April 4th, Saturday the 5th, Sunday the 6th. Then the following weekend, it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday. There's matinee performances, there's evening performances. Again, it's Wild Goose Players. If you go into the town hall, you can peek in and see the set. It's a great set, and it's a great, always a great performance. So make sure you get your tickets. Same thing. As we get closer, they'll start to get more sparse. So get your tickets now. That's all I have for local events.
I just wanted to throw a programming note is the 13th of March was the 250th anniversary of the Westminster Massacre, which is often considered one of the beginning events of the Revolutionary War. On the 14th, William French died. He was considered the first casualty of the Revolutionary War. And on the 15th, they buried him and did some other things. So the Westminster Historical Society put together a program last week with 3 days of events, and they did a march, and then they did a talk at the courthouse, and they did a candlelight vigil on Saturday evening, and it was really pretty cool. Jesse Haas did a lot of work and a lot of presentations, and we have 3 hours of programming, or 3 programs, not 3 hours of programming, 3 programs on Fact TV covering day 1, day 2, and day 3 of the massacre.
So if you missed it, you got
Yeah,
you got them
exactly.
covered.
Yeah. Anyway, that's what I have.
Welcome. So you guys are going to catch us up on the library, the Parks Place, and then collaboration between the library and the Parks Place and other entities. So what do you want to start with?
Want me to start with the collaboration?
Let's do it. Yeah.
All right. So I'm Sam Howard. I'm the Youth Services Librarian at the Rockingham Free Public Library. And you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Jen Heidbrink. I'm the Executive Director for Parks Place.
So pre-pandemic, the WNSU used to have this home to school liaison, and one of the programs that they did was playgroup, and very successful. And so that was how you get the toddlers and start introducing them to the school system. And then we had the lockdowns, and that position wasn't filled, playgroup stopped, but the need for it didn't stop. And so a bunch of us organizations who work with families were like, what can we do? And we decided to bring playgroup back. So that was sort of the initiative, or the impetus rather, for this organization, Greater Falls Family Partnership. And we are a group of organizations, and I brought my cheat sheet. We are Building Bright Futures, Greater Falls Connections, Main Street Arts just joined us, Parks Place, the library, and Springfield Area Parent-Child Center. And we all have this vested interest in doing things, creating third spaces, creating programs for families with young children, for children of all ages. And so Playgroup continues. It's at the library every Friday, 10:30 to 12. When the weather gets nice, we go to the playground, provide snacks. We've got some great families. We recently had a pancake-themed lunch for Playgroup, which was so much fun. So that is an ongoing program, but we do other programs as well. So we've been doing family dinners, and this is supported by the Bellows Falls Rotary, who used the district grant. And so the food for that is paid for, which is fantastic. And it's been really fun to have Rotarians coming and helping us. For families who came to Dino Man, you've met some Rotarians who are making the wraps for the Veloso wrap bar, which I'm so proud of that pun.
Yes.
And we have another program coming up, speaking of Matilda. So the library got behind Matilda the musical in a big way because it's also a fantastic book. And so, we have some weird advertising rules for the library. We have a site license, which allows us to legally show movies publicly. But so the restriction is whenever we advertise the movie in public media, we're not allowed to say the title or the studio. And so we don't compete with like the Opera House or video stores. So the description of the movie, which is coming up on the 28th, is: it features a brilliant young girl with telekinetic powers battling against her cruel parents and a tyrannical school principal while finding solace in books and a kind-hearted teacher who recognizes her potential. As she hones her abilities, she stands up to injustice, ultimately freeing herself and her classmates from oppression. And families can come to the library thanks to a grant from Vermont Humanities to the Vermont Early Literacy Initiative. I have copies of the book to give away. So you can come get copies of Matilda, and then on March 28th, you can come see a movie and have dinner. And we're going to have a breakfast-themed dinner because Brenner is one of those things that our families have told us they have a lot of fun with. Yeah. And so we've been doing programming around it. We've been reading Matilda. We're about partway through the book, doing out loud readings in the evening once a week. We had a book discussion last night, and then this upcoming movie and a dinner.
So can I ask a question? What's the relationship between the book, the movie, and the play that the players are putting on? How are they? Because I've seen previews, some previews from the play. So that's all I know is the player piece. Are they? Is the movie a musical like that, or is?
There is a musical version on Netflix. It's okay.
But
the movie that we're showing is the one that came out in the 90s. And they're adaptations of the book, which is the original. Okay. The movie takes a slightly different approach, so there's some changes in the story. The musical, I think, is closer to the book with music.
Yeah.
But it's a really great story, and I've got lots of copies of the book to give away, and we're trying to.
And what is I think we have a flyer on you're calling it family night out? Is that what you're
Family
calling
night
it?
out, yes, you should have.
Yep.
flyer for that.
And what's the time frame? And
Thank
then
you.
there's some other little details.
It's going to be Friday, March 28th. The movie starts at 6 p.m. And doors will, library will be open 5:30 anyway. And it's going to be at the Rockingham Free Public Library. And depending on the turnout, it might be in the big room on the top floor or the lower room. We're going to have, again, just thinking that pancake theme, because that worked out really nice. We've got a pancake bar.
Oh,
so that should be really fun. Yeah. And so keep it casual. We encourage kids, bring sleeping bags, pillows, stuffed animals. Make yourself comfy, and it's just a nice night out for the whole family.
Nice. And what is what have you been finding your general attendance has been, and what's the feedback been about these dinners you've been doing?
The feedback has been fantastic. Back last summer, we did an ice cream sundae bar for a carnival at Old Home Day, which, because of the weather, ended up being a different time. And again, thanks to volunteers, I was able to take a 3-question questionnaire, and I was able to ask all the adults, would you like a night out? What night is good, and what would you be interested in doing? Just those 3 questions, which is great because it's one thing for us to say this would be fun, but we really wanted to hear from families what they wanted, what they need, because that's one of the goals with the family partnership is finding what those needs are and being able to address them. Dino Man was huge. We had about 150 people. That was amazing, and thank you to the Masons for letting us use the big room. We had our last dinner and a movie, which I can't tell you the title of, but it features an orange lasagna-loving cat who hates Mondays. And I gave out free copies of those books, too. And we had over 100 people for that at the library. It was fantastic.
And the best thing about those is that it's very casual, like you said.
Exactly.
It's, we're not turning off the lights. We're not telling people to sit down. Like, kids can move around as they need or take breaks. So it's very inclusive. It's very welcoming.
It is, yes. And that was the interesting thing for Garfield, because I'm so used to doing programs where, people are paying attention.
Yeah.
And about partway through the movie, I realized this sounds like your living room. Like, everyone's talking, people are comfortable. Oh, thank you to Athens Pizza for the pizza support. That was great. So yeah, it is very, very low key. We really want people to feel comfortable to be there and to be there, kids being all that kids are, and for families just to have a place to go to enjoy a nice night out.
So you deal with a lot of families at Parks Place. What is new and happening in your realm?
Oh, well, I will start with our 30th birthday party that's happening on June 7th. So keep your eyes out for more information about that, but it's gonna be epic. It's gonna be amazing. So stay tuned for more, but definitely mark your calendars, June 7th, outside of Parks Place. And then Wednesdays, I'm super happy to tell everybody that we are welcoming back Vermont Department of Labor. So Wednesdays, we call it Walk-In Wednesdays at Parks Place. We have Springfield supported housing there from 9 to 2, and they will see anybody that walks in with questions, wanting applications. It's basically, again, another example of how we're trying to break those barriers down. So wait lists are long. We all know that. Everybody's waiting for an apartment, waiting to see somebody for help. We're really trying to just get people answers that they need right then and there. So we have Springfield supported housing, thank you to them. Vermont Department of Labor is there from 9 to 3, so housing, job support. And then we have SEVCA in the afternoon from 1 to 4:30, who also takes walk-ins as well. And they help with anything they can help you with, I feel like, from taxes to support for oil, heating, things like that. So I think they also have some funding to help move. So we're really happy to welcome all three of those organizations back for walk-in hours.
And people can you don't have to call and make an appointment. You can just walk in, which is nice, because I think a barrier, like you were talking about, is sometimes when you call and then first of all, nobody actually answers a phone anymore. So you have to go through the whole, the whole phone tree to get to somebody. And then sometimes, you can't get transportation to the appointment or whatever. So if they're right there, it's walkable within town. Yeah. Had it been a while since the Department of Labor had been in?
It's been about a year.
Okay,
Yeah,
nice.
It's been about a year. Springfield supported housing, I believe, they started doing longer hours. They started that, I think, in like December-ish. So, and they're quite busy when.
Now, do they help? Like, if somebody was looking for an apartment and it was daunting to understand how to fill out the application, they'll help with that type of thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
They'll help with that type of thing. They'll, they'll get you. They'll also help you fill out the paperwork to get on the waiting list. If you have any questions about if you're currently in housing and you have questions about, if there's landlord stuff or housing questions, they'll answer all of those as well, or they will point you in the right direction.
Right, and sometimes all you need is who you need to speak to, because it can be
definitely.
Confusing, especially with landlord-tenant stuff.
Yeah. And it's really timely about the tax too, because it is tax season now, and if people are going to need help getting their taxes done.
Yep,
So.
definitely. And I forgot her name, but the person who does the taxes, she is coming to Parks Place. She came last month, and she's coming again in April. So if you don't have transportation or you struggle with that, she is coming to Parks Place.
Yeah,
So.
that's great.
Yeah, that's wonderful, because that is the one thing, because a great organization, but they're a little off the beaten path.
Yeah.
So it's
Yep.
hard. It's hard for folks, whereas having them at your space.
Definitely.
And that was the vision back 30 years ago.
Yep, definitely.
Of having all of that in Parks Place.
For sure.
So do you have any more details on the 30th? Like, or you're keeping them under your hat and you have to show up?
We are very excited about it. So I can tell you there will be entertainment, food, but other than that, it's a secret.
Well, you're going to have to come back and do a teaser.
Yes,
before
definitely. We just want everybody to get it on their calendars, so it's going to be a lot of fun. If you've been to our back to school bash, it's going to be kind of like that, but we're hoping, we're hoping it's bigger and Yeah, not better necessarily, because
yeah.
our bashes are fun, but definitely something to remember. So we're very proud of making it to 30 years. I mean, I was writing a grant yesterday, and the amount of support that we receive from the community is so meaningful. It's really hard to explain it to grantors in words of how much people support us here in town. So
Well, and also how much you're needed. That's hard to put into words too, and to quantify the services that you offer, because you don't offer them directly. It's indirectly, so it's quantifiable. I'm curious. A question. This has just popped into my head. A question for both of you. What are you finding right now? Because we are in kind of when you said you're writing a grant, I'm like, oh, I'm surprised you can find a grant. But what are you finding that what are the needs that you're seeing either pop up, or needs that have been in the community with the folks that you deal with that maybe somebody that's listening could help out with? Or, what are you seeing as the biggest needs for the families and kids in our community right now? Have they changed? Are they differing? Or
They've evolved. I think there's a need for more third places where families are welcomed, and kids can just be kids. What we saw this year was an increased need for after-school programming for older elementary and middle school. That's huge. So we now have after-school programs. So this afternoon is Roblox Club and Young Gamers Club for 9 to 12. Tomorrow is Magic the Gathering for all ages, right after school. And then Friday we have a teen game program. And so I've seen an increased need for places for these kids to be.
Right.
Because the schools, their after-school program has changed. And so that has been a big need.
Yep.
Families are looking for ways to connect. I see this especially in my homeschool families. They want meetups. They're looking for places where they can just gather and kids can make new friends and adults can talk.
I would definitely agree with that. I mean, we work with a lot of families that come in, and we hear transportation is a barrier. We've been getting a lot of food insecurity questions.
I was wondering if that's. I was wondering if that's becoming. Is that's like not that it ever goes away, but I was wondering if it's getting worse.
Yeah, and what was interesting is I was looking back at this particular grant that we've written for before, and the needs haven't changed as much as you'd like to think that they have. They've either gotten a little bit better or a little bit worse, but really it's and it's food insecurity, it's transportation, it's medical care, it's what else was a big one? Mental health services. I mean, it's sad when we can say that our healthcare system is struggling, but our mental health care system is struggling even more.
Yes,
it is, sadly. The strain on it and the lack of just lack of professionals, just a lack of people to deal with it.
Right.
Yeah, and again, it folds into that whole transportation. So if I can find somebody, in Burlington that's actually taking clients, how can I get there? There's telehealth, but when you're talking about a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old who really needs some play therapy,
right.
That's challenging.
Yes.
So it's finding those pieces, or trying to put together that puzzle of how do I get my children the support that they need when those supports aren't there, or they're lacking, or there's a barrier of some sort. So, yeah.
What do you see? I was at the Leslie was the only one there, but they do the legislators meet at the library the third Saturday of every month. Yep, am I right in that? And there's a conversation about, what can we do as a community? Like, how can we be more supportive locally? And what do you see as things that people could do to help with this constant need? What can we do to make a difference in our community? We might not be able to address the greater problem of the medical system or the greater problem of food insecurity, but what can we do in our community? What, with you two working on the front lines, what are some practical things that people can do?
Well, one of the things the library did was I got a grant from the Association for Rural and Small Libraries, a sustainability grant, and this built the kitchen, which we've been teaching people how to cook, and how to cook on things like induction tops, because not everyone has a full kitchen with appliances. And we've got our indoor gardens going, and showing people how they can grow their own food, just helping connect people to seasonal food, to local food growers, and developing our local food networks to help address food insecurity, especially in the face of the climate change.
Is there opportunities for volunteers?
Yes.
I was just going to say, for volunteers
Always.
with, I mean, at some point, is the garden an indoor garden?
The garden's an indoor garden. We actually just got it like really started, so you'll see that tomorrow.
Awesome.
And so the indoor garden, but we would also, if you have skills teaching like container gardening or hydroponics or, you know, any sort of seasonal food, growing, cooking, preparing, and would have an interest in doing a program, come see me at the library.
And so I'm gonna extrapolate here and say, if you were doing a program, it wouldn't mean you were committed forever.
No,
Maybe you came in, did
Maybe
a
you
one-off.
came in and did a one-off 30-minute
Okay.
program. We would help provide supplies because we have funding for that. And yeah, so that's one of the things that we're trying to do to help build.
I just think that we have to really start, because
Looking very
we're
local.
looking very local,
Yeah.
being very hyper-local
Yeah.
and supporting each other.
Yeah.
Much like what, during the pandemic, how Rockingham Help and Helpers
Exactly.
just
Yeah.
started to exist, that kind of entity where we really took care, we really tried to take care.
I was the informational hub for that.
Yes, you were. Yes, you were. What would you say, Jen?
Well, something that really hit me is the word connection, right? So I'm not going to say it right, but they often say that connection is
Opposite of addiction.
the opposite
Yes.
of addiction, right? So there's always like donating food, donating diapers, you know, that's great, but go out of your way to build connections. You know, we have an intern at Parks Place now. Her name's Alyssa. She's wonderful, and I'm asking her. She's getting her degree at CCV, and I've actually asked her to attend an AA meeting, an open one, and to go there and listen to the stories and really better, understand how people struggle with addiction and how how it started and for that for people and I really feel like empathizing and reaching out and trying to better understand somebody else's history or how they got where they are. I think that's so important. I mean, of course, donating diapers is super important as well, but actually like going out and talking to people and building relationships and understanding and sharing that with other people in your realm, in your group, and letting people know, hey, it's not all about this, or it's not that, it's not what you're hearing, it's not that,
Right.
it's more of this picture,
Right.
or
Yeah, and on the other end of that, so Greater Falls Connections, and full disclosure, I'm on the board for that. We are dealing in the work of prevention, which is also about creating connections, developing resiliencies, so that if we can get the prevention part right, we don't have to worry about the recovery part at the other end.
Exactly.
That's the goal.
Exactly.
But a lot of it does come down to that connection, that understanding, developing community. Another thing people can do is shop local. Support our farmers, support our
Especially
local
now,
businesses.
support our local
especially
farmers.
right now. Support our local economy as much as you can. I think that's very important for us.
And if you were thinking about doing that, both Harlow's and Pete's Stand are offering discount CSA
Oh, nice.
offers right now. So you
Oh,
can get
nice.
20% off your, that might be wrong, but it's at least 10%, maybe 10 to 20% off.
Mike Smith
on
said.
all your on all your produce, because you're gonna buy over the summer,
Right.
and it helps them get started, gives them a cash flow.
Yep.
And both Harlow's and Pete's Stand support us a lot, support the community a lot.
They do.
Yes, they
So
do.
I think you
100%
should
do.
think about that, and it's a way of saving money.
Yes. Yeah.
So we have about 2 minutes left, and Jen, you wanted to talk a little bit
Oh,
about...
yeah. Speaking of volunteering and
Yes,
connection, so,
exactly. Good segue. Perfect segue.
I happen to know the president of the Bells Falls Little League.
Really?
I do. I barely know him though, barely. And he asked me to let everybody know that signups for Little League close today at midnight. If you'd like to get your child signed up, you can go to bellasfallsbaseball.com. And we have a T-ball, which is Parks Place actually coaches a team. We teach the coach T-ball, which is super fun. An 8U, a 10U, and a 12U division or age group, he said. And if you're interested, like I said, in volunteering, you can contact him at 802-579-9566. His name is Tim Heidbrink. weird last name. But he's looking for volunteers to coach or organizations that want to sponsor a team. And he's also trying to get the Snack Shack, there we go, running again a little bit more than it was last year. So he's looking for volunteers to run that, or if there's an organization that might want to run it and maybe split the profits or do
that's a
something
great
like
idea.
that,
Yeah.
he'd be interested in talking about that as well. And if you had a little bit of baseball experience and you'd like to umpire, is that short for umpire? He is having a what do you call it? Like a
Clinic?
Clinic, thank you. On April 5th from 9
Twine
to
beer.
12. So many baseball words for me. So if you want any more information, reach out to Tim Heidbrink, or you can call me at Parks Place too, so I can get you his number.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we are down to less than 10 seconds. So thank you
Yeah.
both for coming.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank
Come
you for
back.
the work that
We
you
need
do.
to hear about summer programs here in a
It's
little
coming
bit.
soon.
We need to hear
And
more about the
The 30th
birthday
anniversary.
party.
Because that's huge for a nonprofit to go 30 years. So
All right.
Okay.
So that's it. We'll see you next
Bye,
week on the
community.
feed.